Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We're talking about the Nancy Guthrie case. Some new security images have been uncovered related to the case. And what is going on with them, though? Are they useful? Are they not? And what does this sheriff actually mean? A lot to talk about on the other side of this.
I've walked through storms in scars and grace, smile through pain with a painted face. They called me too loud, too much, too strong, but honey, that's the reason I belong. Every scar's a scripture, every tear's a hymn. I found my worth where the light grew dim. They tried to break me, but here's the twist. I turned my pain into a clenched fist. I'm an unbreakable woman, born of fire and pearl. I shine like grace in a reckless world. You can test my faith, you can shake my plan, but I'll rise again. Just watch me stand. I've been whispered about and written off, judged by the gloss, not the cause. But God don't build weak hearts from gold. He made me fierce and he made me bold. I bend, I pray, I roar, I rise with mascara, tears and battle cries. Don't need your crown, I forge my own. From ashes, honey, I build my throne. I'm an unbreakable soul, dressed in truth and pearls. The fire don't scare me, it lights my world. You can doubt my voice, but you'll hear my name. I'm holy and hood, and I'm done with shame. For everyone called too much, too loud, too real. You're not to anything. You're exactly what power looks like. I'm an unbreakable soul, through the fight and flame. My scars are stories, my strength, my faith. Faith in my heart, fire in my curls, forever divine. Clutch them pearls.
Let's go. Glory.
Coming in clutch, better tighten them clothes, dropping cold facts. Got the truth for the world, no smoke, no fluff. Just the real that we trust, hold on to your seat, cause I'm coming in clutch. Coming in clutch, better tighten them pearls, dropping cold facts. Got the truth for the world, no smoke, no fluff. Just the real that we trust, hold on to your seat, cause I'm coming in clutch. Coming in clutch. Coming in clutch, better tighten the pearls, dropping cold facts. Got the truth for the world, no smoke, no fluff, just the real that we trust. Hold on to your seat, cause I'm coming in clutch. Coming in clutch.
Well, hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Really do appreciate your time. Could have chosen to be anywhere on YouTube. You have a lot of options, anywhere on the internet, anywhere in the world, and you chose to be right here. I know your time is very valuable, and I do appreciate you spending some time with me. Today is March 13th, 2026. It is currently 8:18 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Bonjour. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you all, my beautiful pearls. Thank you so much for joining me. We are talking about the Nancy Guthrie case tonight, and this is exhausting. It's really exhausting, this case, because the sheriff doesn't help. We know that, and we've known that for 40 days now. 40 days and 40 nights, kind of like, the Bible. It feels like it's been raining 40 days and 40 nights, or whatever. But yeah, I know, Ginger, a lot of us are. Good to see you all. We're going to be talking about some very, very interesting things here. One second. Wait a second. I just got this messed up. 2 seconds. Let me fix this. I apologize. I just now noticed something that I needed to fix. Okay. All right. So, guys, do me a favor before we get started. If you don't mind, please hit that thumbs up button. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Also, share the live out, would mean so much on any of your favorite social media. And if you, after this live, if you would be so kind to consider hyping this video, it means more than you know, especially for us YouTube creators. Things are really weird in the algorithm right now. So would really, really appreciate that if you guys would do that. Um, so a couple things that we're going to be covering tonight. Lab work to separate DNA in the Nancy Guthrie case as the search hits 41 days. Really good interview that's very informative. Brianna Whitney, she is done a lot of local news in Tucson, and she put an interview out with April Stonefield, professor of forensic science at ASU, and they're in the lab and they are talking about the DNA and the analysis about how the hands-on how mixed DNA, like in the Nancy Guthrie case, is separated and how it's prepared differently for CODIS testing versus genetic genealogy, and how the results can read. Very, very informative, and kind of gives us an inside view. Also, we are learning, ABC News has reporting that additional images recovered from the cameras at Nancy Guthrie's home. This is from a source at ABC News. They have a source. Now, I'm going to give you kind of a spoiler. They're saying that these are like almost like still frame images, from what I understand. Some are saying like a loop. We'll get into all of that as well. We've wondered for when did the images come out of this suspect? It was like day 12 or day 13, I believe, when this guy came out, and the FBI, Cash Patel, dropped these images. He we wondering if we were going to get any more images. Well, they say that the police have more, but it's not really helping. Last night, the sheriff said that we know this is targeted, and that there is not we know who did this. I can't remember how he quoted it, but it was it brought up a lot of questions. It's like, well, if you know I can't remember how he wrote it, but we'll talk about it in a second. Yeah, I yeah, he's like, it's somebody else could potentially. I mean, do you guys think the person that did this is going to hurt another 84-year-old woman or an elderly person or a non-elderly person in the area? I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't think this is a serial unaliver or someone, ripping our grannies out of our houses. I don't see that. This was absolutely that's what the sheriff said. He said it was targeted. Targeted. If it's targeted, well, you're not expecting anybody else to be at risk, in my opinion, right? That it's kind of an oxymoron what he's saying here. So good to see you all. Hey, Sherry, Tina, Pink Warrior, Christy, Ginger, Miss Leslie, Little Texas Tornado. Hello, darling. Nancy, Glow. Good to see you. Crazy Buck, Word Sleuth, Fine Summer. Nancy, good to see you. Miss Rue, Brandy and Indy, Bonkers, Crazy Buck, Ginger, Green Eyes, Roxy, good to see you. I'm out, YouTuber, Miss Tina, hello, hello, everyone. Lolo, good to see you all. Thank you all so much for joining me. Guys, please hit that thumbs up as y'all were rolling in. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Hey, Sandwich. Good to see everyone. Mama Bear, Cinderella, Glow, Cinderella. Who else do we got? Connie, good to see you. Hey, Sam. All right, so let's get right. Oh, there was one more thing we're going to be discussing as well. This tattoo that is on this suspect's wrist, to me, is one of the biggest clues that we can have. I really believe that. More so than the goatee or anything like that, because you can take off your goatee and all of that. I mean, you can cover your wrist and stuff too, but don't forget about this tattoo. And we're going to be talking about that in this live stream as well. It may not be just on the wrist, it may be a whole sleeve or whatever, but I think it's very, very important. And I'll be honest with you, when Mr. Daly was wearing all of these clothes on him, it made me really suspicious about that. Not saying he's involved in any way, shape, or form, but I'm like, why are you, you look like you're bundled up for Alaska here as well. I'll show you some more pictures and stuff that we're getting to. Hey, Leilani, good to see you, honey. Good to see you. Green Eyes, hello, Donna, everyone. Hey, Justin chat, hello, seriously, good to see you. Oh, you're moving, you don't got the internet. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Let's go to Brianna Whitney. I want to show you guys this. It's very, very interesting. And I've got some comments on this. So credit goes to Brianna Whitney. She is, of course, local from 3TV, CBS 5, and the AZ family.
I am a professor of forensic science here at Arizona State University.
You also used to work in the DPS crime lab.
That's correct. So I am a forensic serologist and DNA analyst with 23 years of experience working in government crime laboratories.
So you've seen it all.
The majority of it, yes, but there are still cases that still surprise me to this day.
When it pertains to the Guthrie case specifically, and I know you've shown us now how to read the DNA, but talk to me about how difficult it might be for what they're looking at inside her home. We know it's mixed DNA, but we don't know what evidence that's coming off of, the item or perhaps something they found. So what's the challenge right now for those who are working on that mixed DNA?
There are several challenges. The first challenge is to identify an item of evidence inside that home that has a high likelihood of having the suspect's DNA on it.
Now, this Brianna is the ones she did the interview with the Daly family. she's talking about, like, finding what's most likely to have the DNA on it. And you can really think about that. You're looking at high touch areas or places where biological fluid, biological matter rather, could be on there as well. Doorknobs, wherever this perpetrator was around, right? Feds got the Devil's Den guy. They probably will get this guy too, like Koberger too. I swear, I think they got someone in mind.
So if you have items from Miss Guthrie's home, we would expect to find her DNA on it. It's her home.
Of course.
So what we're looking for is an item that would have the suspect's DNA on it. And that's in an attempt to identify him. And so we want to find an item that has his DNA on it. We want to find an item that has a sufficient amount of DNA that we can utilize in the crime laboratory to get a result.
Now, again, I understand all of this. I get all of this. I do. What I don't get in this case, well, one of the things I don't get in this case is, for instance, that Nancy was in Tommaso or Annie's car, but you don't expect it to be gone for nearly 40 days before it's given back as well. You know what I mean? Hey, Jana, good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much. Welcome, my dear. Really do appreciate you. Now, welcome, Miss Jana 0224. Thank you so much, my dear. Really do appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for your support. Means so much to me, my dear. So, okay. It's very interesting.
And then when you have a mixture of DNA, ideally what we would want is to have enough of his DNA that we could generate a DNA profile to identify him. Several items that I would look at or have questions to the investigator. I have noticed that they haven't released a lot of information about how the suspect made entry into the home. So typically the point of entry is one of the areas we would look at to see if DNA had been left behind by the perpetrator, because sometimes
Doors,
they
that kind of
use
thing, like
tools to get into that home and to pry a door open, or they break a window to get in. Sometimes they're injured and they'll leave their DNA.
Right. Even if you have gloves on, if you have, most criminals, if they're intelligent enough, they will at least double glove. You never use just one pair of gloves, ever. But even if they're double gloved, triple gloved, whatever, if you're breaking like a camera off or anything, these gloves break very, very easily, and they tear very easily. And you can get your DNA on that, or you can cut yourself, you can bleed. And once your DNA is on there, you're screwed. You're screwed.
At the point of entry. So I would be curious to know the point of entry, and if there was any sort of damage and any sort of biological fluids left there at that point of entry.
Yes.
In addition to that, depending on what transpired in that home, I would want to know what the scene looked like.
Well, clearly it wasn't good. Clearly, they leaked too. Yes. Clearly it wasn't good, because from jump, this was homicide was there. I think that's the only, I don't want to say that's the only good thing that the sheriff did, but I think he jumped the gun and ran the house too quickly and cleared it too quickly, but at least he did bring homicide there. Hey, Tina, thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. Thank you so much. I'm very new to all your channels, have watched you several times. I really enjoy your channel and your personality. Thank you so much, my love. That's very, very kind. Really do appreciate that, Miss Tina. Thank you so much for your support, and you are always welcome here, and appreciate your input as well. Thank you so much, honey. I'll make sure Miss Tina feels welcomed, as I'm sure the mods and everybody always does in here. Justin can't see my membership. Also, no option to join if it is messed up. Really? I don't know. Are you on iPhone? Mods, is membership not on? I don't know. Could someone let me know about that?
And if there were items that the investigators would have a good idea that the suspect may have handled or touched. I don't know if there was a struggle inside the home, if there was evidence of a struggle. And so there may be items that investigators may be able to identify that have a high likelihood that has the suspect's DNA on it.
Fluids, top tier for DNA, right?
Correct. So body fluids are very rich in DNA. So as you saw in this case, the first items of evidence that were DNA typed was a body fluid, blood, that is very rich in DNA. Has a very
You know something I did not realize I didn't realize I was streaming from J for A as well. So you guys over on J for A, I'm going to end it from J for A. So come over here on Clutch them pearls if you can. Well, I'll just keep it up. It's okay. It's all right. I didn't realize I thought I had it on my Facebook. I apologize. It's okay. It's all right. I just don't have memberships set up over there yet, I don't think.
very good chance of giving a DNA result. And so that's why those items of evidence were worked first, as you would expect. In addition to that, that blood was right there at the threshold of that front door. And so you don't know if the suspect injured himself on the way in and that blood belonged to him, or if it belonged to the victim. And the only way you'd know that is when you DNA typed it. And all of those items came back to match the victim in this case.
So then you'd move on to touch DNA.
That's correct. So you'd move on to any other items or the second wave or the second group of items that may have the suspect's DNA on it.
Where does this all start?
So initially when evidence comes in, it's going to go through a serology examination. So serology is testing for body fluids. So depending on the nature of the case and what body fluids you suspect are present on an item of evidence, then we're going to do some initial testing. And that is what initially happened in any case that involves blood. So you do a preliminary blood test where you test that sample. And if
I mean, I would expect, I would absolutely expect that there would be blood inside the home if there was blood on the outside of the house, right? And one thing that's kind of interesting to me is not knowing, or the perpetrator or the perpetrators. They obviously, I mean, you would think that they would know that the blood well, let's just say it like this. The perpetrators knew that the house looked like a crime scene because whenever the police got there, they knew something was deeply wrong. And they didn't essentially care that it looked like this. Right? So there are people that will try to clean up the crime scene, right? But that is not what we see in this case. They are trying to clean up the doorbells, the lights out back, that kind of thing. But they're not trying to clean it up to make it look like she just walked out or whatever, even though she left her phones and stuff there. So it wasn't so much about, looking like a crime scene didn't happen. It was more about making sure they didn't get caught. And that's what it was more about. And that says a lot, in my opinion.
if it's positive for blood, that sample would then move on for DNA analysis. So depending on what type of case you're dealing with, whether that is a burglary or a sexual assault or a homicide, you'll have different items of evidence and different body fluids. So you're going to do that preliminary testing. And after you do that preliminary testing, you may end up going over to the microscope and looking to see what kind of cells you have present. We would do that first because if you have something that looks like blood, for example, I know that it's a common myth that if you had ketchup or something like that, we can clearly tell that that's not blood under a microscope.
Not blood.
Very
Not
much
blood
so.
under a microscope. And you can tell that by looking under a microscope. But most people don't have a microscope to know. So we have these very quick chemical tests that will tell us very quickly if it's positive or negative. And then those samples are forwarded on for DNA analysis.
So that's what would have happened with the Guthrie case. The
Yes.
blood that was found on the front porch would have gone through this process.
Yes, it would have gone through a preliminary serology exam. That leads us into the 4 steps of
Coming from them that remember that they never even took the doormat. They just left the doormat. Hey, Mish, good to see you, honey. They just left the doormat up right there. Hey, Jacqueline, good to see you, hon. Yeah, crazy, isn't it? No way the blood trail is a cough, in my opinion. I don't think it's a cough either. I think it's, in my opinion, it's from the nose area. It could be from the mouth area, or it's from like the hands or legs area, something like that. But I think a lot of people say that there's aspiration. It appears it's possible, but I'm still not 100% sure that it's. I certainly don't think it's. I think the least likely is that it came from the mouth, in my opinion.
DNA analysis. There are 4 general steps. The first one is we have to get the DNA out of the blood sample, for example.
Yeah.
And so we're going to use a kit like this that has chemicals in it where we are going to extract the DNA out of the sample. So this kit comes with all of the chemicals that you need. And so what this does is, if you remember back to your biology class from high school, the cell is made up of fat with protein and DNA and RNA. Well, we want to get rid of all of those parts of the cell and just keep the DNA. So these chemicals would break open those cells, release the contents, and we would get rid of everything. And we would take that DNA sample and we would filter it through. And what we're left with at the very end in this filtered sample is a DNA sample. So we have to figure out how much did we get. So we're going to use an instrument where we figure out.
Now, they're going to tell you how it goes into CODIS too. And this is, to me, it's a very, really interesting part of this, because remember, there was a problem with, there wasn't enough DNA or whatever to put this into CODIS. So they're right now, what they're doing here, they're measuring to see how much of the actual DNA is available once they've concentrated it down, if you will. Now, it takes time. How can I say it? Make the DNA more concentrated, but it takes a lot of time to do that, and only
How much DNA?
And it's a newer.
What's this called?
This is called a Quant Studio.
Absolutely.
And this is used to determine how much DNA. And you would put your samples in this tray. Into this, we would put your DNA sample, and we would figure out how much DNA did we get out of it.
And is that a number? Is that like
It's a number.
2 or 4? What kind of number are we talking?
It is a very high-tech number. So this is a very high-tech way of figuring out how much DNA. And just to give you a reference, we work with very small amounts of DNA. We typically like to have at least 1 nanogram of DNA. That's 1 × 10⁻⁶. That's a very, very small
Yeah, I
amount.
don't even know what that
Very, very
number
small
is.
amount of DNA. It's tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of DNA. And so that's why we can get DNA profiles from
I would
skin
be
cells.
shocked, Capote.
And so we're dealing with very small amounts. And so then the third step, after we figure out how much DNA, we want to copy the DNA out of the evidence. And we're going to use little tubes like this. This is called a thermal cycler. And this is a very fancy instrument that what it does is it heats and cools. And the reason it heats and cools is we use an enzyme that copies DNA at very specific areas where we know people are different.
Yeah.
And the kits that we use are designed against those areas where we know people are different. We don't want to copy all of your DNA. We don't want to copy the parts that everybody has that tells you to have 2 eyes and
What
2
separates
ears and a nose.
yourself?
No, there are specific areas within our DNA that are called short tandem repeats, or STRs. And this is where people are different. And this is how we can take a sample and generate a DNA profile and tell it apart from any other sample.
So what are those things that are different?
So let me show you what those are. I have them on my computer. So the areas in a crime laboratory that we look at are areas of DNA that have this pattern. And if you notice, can you see the 4 base pattern where it says CATG, and they're blocked out here in different colors? And you can see that they're repeated over and over and over again. So they're called STRs because they're short, they're tandem, which means they're right next to each other, and they're repeated over and over. And
I never knew that. I've heard STR testing for years, and I didn't know exactly what that was.
Yes.
So this is interesting.
And we have, all of us have areas of our DNA where we all have a different number of repeats.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is how I'm able to tell your DNA apart from mine, for example.
So you get the STR.
We get the STR results, yes.
And then what?
And then this is what the data looks like. So when we look at the data, first of all, this is what a DNA profile looks like. This is actually a mixture of DNA. And this is a profile generated during our research. And those areas of
very interesting.
Those areas of where the STRs are the addresses up here in these boxes. So that D stands for DNA, and I can enlarge this if you'd like.
Sure,
let's take a look. Let me scroll down just a little bit. So see up here, it says D3S1358.
Yep.
That's like an address. That means DNA on chromosome 3, site 1358. It's like an address. And it's an address for scientists. What you see here
Isn't that crazy?
Is under each one of these boxes, if you have DNA from one person, the maximum number of peaks you're going to see is 2. One from mom and one from dad. But then notice here, I have 2 really tall peaks, and then I have this really tiny peak.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I know that I have a mixture of DNA. And the really strong peaks here is the person who donated the majority of DNA. And the really short peaks is the person who donated a very small amount of DNA.
Right. So if you have mixtures of DNA, right? If you have a mixture of 2 people's DNA, regardless, there's going to be one more out of the 2, one of the 2 that's going to have more DNA in it, and it's going to show that. It's so amazing. It's so amazing how it happens. And if there is just one person's DNA, well, we have DNA from, that makes us from half from our mother, half from our father, right? So very, very interesting, very informative that she's done here. Hey, Miss Tina, thank you so much, my love. Really, really do appreciate you. 17 months. My goodness gracious. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do. Much love to you, Miss Tina. Really, really do appreciate you. Thank you so very, very much for your continued support, my dear. Yes, guys, please hit that thumbs up button. Greatly appreciate you all being here. This, to me, has been the most informative about and really easy to listen to, and how they explain it as well.
So often are you looking for the smart?
I'm going to drop the link so you can watch the rest of it there. It's very, very interesting how it will get to why they didn't have it all in CODIS and all that as well. Okay, so I don't want to play like all of our video. Okay, so what we are going on to now is this new thing about the new photos or videos that are out, and different reporting on this. So I don't know if it's like a loop or if it's still images. There's different, like I said, reporting come out. I'll show you both, and we'll talk about it. Gonna go to the queen of true crime, Miss Nancy Grace. Listen to this. I've got some thoughts on it.
He has done one-on-one interviews with some of his favorite reporters, networks, and yesterday was no
Talking about
different.
Sheriff Nanos here.
Last night, shocking information coming from Sheriff Nanos in Pima County on the NBC Nightly News.
We believe we know why he did this, and we believe that it was targeted, but we're not 100% sure of that. And
He's not a good communicator. He's not a good communicator whatsoever.
so it'd be silly to tell people, yeah, don't worry about it. You're not his target. Don't think for a minute that because it happened to the Guthrie.
I mean, sir, after 41 days, after 41 days, if you can't say whether this was at least targeted, like without, I mean, yeah, you said we believe this is targeted, but then you say, oh, well, we can't be absolutely sure of that. But then he says, well, we believe this since the beginning. Since the beginning. Well, if it's targeted, then calm your community, sir. Calm the people that voted you in, sir, as well.
Family, you're safe. No, keep your wits about you. I think
there should always be an element of public safety, right? You should always, not just when something like this happens, there should always be, keeping your eye on things in your community and all that. But I'm sure, as particularly the neighborhood, well, I mean, they've expressed this. Neighbors have thought, been very, very scared of this person coming back, particularly the elderly people.
it's come out from day one. I think from day one, we had some strong beliefs about what happened, and those beliefs haven't diminished.
That was from our friends at NBC Nightly News, Sheriff Nanos, avoiding press conferences where he might have to answer questions, but coming out with an idea that, yes, this was a targeted kidnapping. Nancy Guthrie was targeted. But wait a minute. Everybody now is at risk and not giving us any real information to go on. It's really frightening to think if you're living in Tucson, Arizona right now, that you might have a kidnapper / maybe even a murderer that is in your midst. Somebody you might be dining next to at a restaurant. Your kids might go to their kids at school and they're just roaming around town like nothing. So that's where Nanos is coming from. One has to wonder if the recent press investigation into Pima County Sheriff Nanos and his resume, maybe this is a way to get some of that attention away. I don't know. But still,
yes.
He claims to have a motive, Sheriff Nanos, and claims it was a targeted attack, but nobody is safe.
Okay. If you have a motive, right? If you have a motive in why 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie is missing, then you probably have someone in your sights if he's being truthful, right? He said we've kind of knew this from the get-go about this. So it's but then you think of they were at a restaurant just day before yesterday looking at restaurant workers again. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. I believe in my heart that he has to keep hold I believe in my heart that he has to it keeps me going one day and we will find each other again. I have DNA. Oh, okay. I guess it's something else. Sorry. I don't think he has a lot of public trust, to be honest with you.
Now to Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, Director of Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators around the world, including extractions from Mexico, finding missing people, former Marine, Iraqi war.
Yeah, $1,202,000, $202,500. Nobody's talking.
That. Brian Fitzgibbons, what about that?
Yeah, so this was another perplexing statement from Sheriff Nanos. And, you know, I always try to separate the signal from the noise when these statements come out. And, you know, this is not the first statement that has been confusing. He's had a number that he's made that he's had to walk back throughout this case. But from what he said publicly, he's indicating that this is not a random act, that this suspect knew what they were after, chose Nancy, and now he's adding a layer to it that the public is not necessarily safe. That this
is the question, though. This is the question, though. If this is targeted, again, who targets an 84-year-old woman? What does Nancy have specifically that would cause this individual or individuals to show up potentially days or weeks before, potentially case the place out, show up in the early hours of the morning, get Nancy, and it going on 6 weeks, she's not been seen or heard from. What would an 84-year-old woman have? Well, clearly they're not getting money out of this. Clearly, in my opinion at least, it wasn't ransom. It wasn't ransom that they were initially after. If it was ransom that they were initially after, they would have made it a lot more obvious sooner, right? You would have contacted the family immediately and say, listen, don't go to the cops. Don't go to the press. We want our money. You can have your mom back. And that's that. But they waited 4 days and went to TMZ. If they're even related. Nope. So it can be, and I believe that it's very likely financial gain in some aspect, or a deep grievance, or kind of a combination of both. But I don't believe that the target was money openly. I think there could have been money secrets behind the scene is why she's missing, potentially, but not, oh, give me, all this money in Bitcoin.
Actor may do this again, right? So again, I don't provide or put much credence into everything Sheriff Nanos is saying at this point. But I think what we are learning is that we have to be able to separate signal from noise, right? We know what we know. We have the evidence in this case. We have to believe that Miss Guthrie was targeted due to Savannah's celebrity and a perceived motive of some sort of extortion for money.
In the last days, there have been a number of crazy conspiracy theories and ideas. And the one thing that gets under the skin of actual investigative journalists is that because of the way platforms are arranged, anybody, anywhere can say anything and make it seem credible. So we've got stories about what could have happened to Nancy Guthrie, ranging from the sublime to the ridiculous. But the one thing we've been trying to figure out, motive. You've got a targeted kidnapping, and the only motive in a
Thank you.
targeted kidnapping like this would seem to be money.
Money, or I say grievance, but it could be Nancy could have information that she was going to tell someone or told someone, something like that, or someone could have owed her money. She was going to tell someone, take it to, but that would be, again, money related. To me, it's whoever has the most to gain with an 84-year-old missing, because I say this nearly every live, but 84 years old, you're really not going to be around much longer. Let's just be real, right? 84 years old, you have already statistically lived longer than most people on the planet. You've outlived the average age of females in the United States. The average age is about 76, 77 point some years, right? So who would need her deceased that quick? That quick? That couldn't stand her to be alive much longer. Like that is a real deep-seated hatred, or will benefit you in some way, shape, or form. It's really twisted when you think about it, because again, most people that have lived this age are not, they're certainly not the ransom, right? It's kind of like, whenever there is trafficking and things like that going on. Well, they generally, like we've talked in Sebastian's case, people, they picked who is best person for them, and it's like we talk in Sebastian Rogers' case, it's usually not a 15-year-old autistic child, because there comes a lot of weight with anyone that has any sort of special needs. And Nancy is 84 years old with special needs, and that requires a lot of risk, right? Time, patience, and potential death just by stress, let alone not having her medicine and everything like that. So there's that. Hey, Miss Jackie, thank you so much for becoming a member, my dear. Appreciate you. And welcome, Miss Jackie, to the Pearl family. Really do appreciate you, Miss Jackie. Thank you so much, my dear. Good to see you. Appreciate you. Jillian, but why go through all of this? Because Nancy may have been a burden, going through a whole lot of extra just to get rid of a burden. It's not about her being a burden. The burden technically goes on. The burden would go on if, like, there's a ransom, the person caring for her. I don't believe Nancy was cared for after the person or persons broke in the house. In my opinion, the goal was to end it for Nancy. That was, in my opinion, the goal. I don't believe, most likely, Nancy was alive when she left the home. And if she was, I don't believe, in my opinion, Nancy was alive probably no more than an hour after she left the home, if she was alive. I think, again, this person that was there, maybe days, maybe weeks prior, checking out this home, they came with the backpack, they came with a GUN, and they were there to do what they came to do. They were there to do what they came to do. But you got to think of it this way as well. This person didn't come to, it wasn't in a hurry. And that to me says a lot too. It wasn't in a hurry, right? Most people get in there, jump in, jump out. 7 minutes is a long time to be in that house, about 7 minutes. That's more than average. We're talking over 43 minutes. That tells me a lot as well. That tells me they were either wanting Nancy to do something, give some information, or they were comfortable being there, not expecting anybody to come. Right? For instance, if you are, if there's a, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not saying this happened, but if there's a will that you want her to sign right here and date it for whenever. And if she's not going to do it, well, that could take some time. Or they just simply knew nobody was coming. Nobody was coming.
Nano suggests that they know the motive. He's not telling.
Oh, I forgot to read this. I apologize. Brandy says, I agree, more than one person, because you can see a passenger's arm out the window of the alleged SUV fleeing 8 minutes after her pacemaker disconnected from her app. Are you talking about that? The white SUV? Which
I think it's a targeted attack, but nobody is safe. So as we move forward, Brian Fitzgibbons, you have seen and heard many of the different things in this case. And I have to wonder, if you were on the ground right now in Tucson and Nanos and his investigator came to you and said, Brian, we need your help, what do we do today?
Yeah, so as a private investigator firm, the way that we would initiate that, if we were asked by Pima County, the very first thing we would do is enter into what we call a memorandum of understanding. We would have a briefing, a detailed briefing, where Pima County would identify, learn first our capabilities and limitations, and then identify the left and right lateral limits of where we would and would not engage.
That is very possible, Ketchup. Maybe she was planning to make changes someone didn't want her to make. Or maybe she already made changes and someone found out that she made changes and got really mad. You never know. Because let's be honest, at 84 years old, you are, most people already have that set up to however they're going to set it up, but you might make changes, especially, and you can see Nancy's photographs just as we all age, but she went significantly downhill in her health, you can tell, in the last few years, right? So it's, like I said, the chances of even Nancy being alive 1 year later from 84 to 85 is statistically very low. It's statistically, it goes up exponentially every single year of mortality, right? Since a lot of older people go on Facebook, I wonder if she maybe met someone on Facebook through chat. I think Nancy was very young at heart. I think she was very young at heart. I think she tried to remain active. I think she liked to be around a younger crowd sometimes. I'm not saying she was out like partying, but she liked to like teach people like games and stuff like that, which I find very interesting. So I think that's a very an avenue that needs explored as well.
Specifically, where I think a private organization, private investigative firm could help. And I think a good place to start would be to begin aggressive grid searches using drones. That would be number one. So bringing in that search and rescue assets and technology to aggressively grid search the area that, in as particularly areas that have not been done. That would be number one, right? And I believe that there are organizations like the Cajun Navy that have these assets on hand and are available. So,
and yes, this buffoon sheriff, the United Cajun Navy asked for the blessing to search for Nancy, and Sheriff Doofy here never obliged to their offer, got in contact with them or not. Very some people, I mean, why do you care that they're looking for Nancy?
in light of this new information from Sheriff Nanos floating that there is a theory, there is a motive that they've identified. Again, he's going to keep everything close to the chest to protect the integrity of this investigation at this point. So there's no guessing what the next step or direction from Pima County is going to be.
Former FBI agent has suggested that Nancy Guthrie was rolled up in a blanket or something and carried out of her own home, suggesting that the blood droplets that we see in pictures on the right outside the front door, that it was the way that the blood dropped or splashed on the mat and the cement, that it indicated that she was rolled up and carried out.
Okay. Oops, wrong one. 1 second. That's very important because we've had this conversation before, right? I've told you guys, think about this. Just as I said a minute ago, whoever takes an 84-year-old woman, it's high risk, right? Because you have to care for them. It's extra care. And if you are taking an 84-year-old woman out of the house, well, you can't rush an 84-year-old woman like you could me, like you could a lot of you, right? Push them, shove them, whatever, because they'll break a hip and it's over after that if they break a hip or whatever. So you're either going to have to be very patient or you're going to have to carry them out alive, right? One or the other. Regardless, if you're not very patient with them, then you're going to be working really hard carrying her out. It's a lot of work, right? So that, assuming that she is alive. If she is not alive, well, you got to take her out by yourself or with someone else. My opinion, this person did not take Nancy out by themselves. But if she was rolled up in something, a comforter, bags, or whatever, and this blood dripped, then it lost whatever she was contained in, lost containment, right? There was either a lot of blood or some sort of fabric, or if there was some sort of plastic, it had either had a hole in it or something like that. Because if there's fluid, it's the path of least resistance, whatever it is. So now there's a lot of talk that she might have allegedly been wrapped up, if you will, while she was taken out. And if she's wrapped up, I don't think that she's going to be alive. I mean, I guess she could be alive and wrapped up, but I don't see it. I don't see it. In fact, my hope is if she is not alive, I hope she didn't even know what happened. Like that, like if there's no hope of Nancy being alive, I hope if they just went in there and she didn't even know what happened. Because to me, her being scared like that is just, that would be so scary for an 84-year-old woman, being alone by yourself, and like a man or men coming in, So that's my hope if that did happen, that she was just in her sleep and they used the GUN and it was over. That way there was no fear.
What do you think, Brian?
Well, we know that the blood on the porch was Nancy's, right? And we know that there was some oxygen in that blood. Dead people don't bleed like that. Okay, so that's first.
Okay, let me tell you something. This kind of does annoy me. Yes, dead people don't bleed, right? If you don't have a heart pumping, you don't technically bleed. But if there is an opened, we'll say, wound or an open source to where blood has been present and you are being moved or contained, again, we have a thing called gravity, and the liquid, the blood, whatever, is going to follow the gravity, and it can and will leak. It can and will leak. So yes, like if, let's say, for instance, trigger warning, if there was a GUN pew pew to the skull, right? Well, you will bleed until your heart stops, right? And then if you are contained in a blanket or whatever, and you are carried, that, and it depends on the way your body is laying and all of that, it will fall. Blood will still come out. It still will hit the floor as well. I've worked in 3 different funeral homes. I can tell you things still happen.
And foremost. So she was living as she came out that door. And hey, often in cases where somebody's moving a body, or someone who's not ambulatory, who can't walk on their own power, they will use things like tarps, blankets, carpets to move that person, because it's not as easy as you might think to move somebody without leaving a tremendous amount of evidence behind. So it's very possible, right? Pima County has not released to us, and nor should they, what was taken or potentially taken from inside the house and used in that manner. We didn't see the perp on the porch carrying any type of equipment.
I don't think some people like think their comments through sometimes. Like, I guess we all don't it sometimes. But like, if I have, you know, if I've got this Pepsi right here or whatever, I mean, it's Pepsi's thinner than blood or whatever. But if I rolled up like a paper towel and I put a little bit of Pepsi in it, right? It's going to absorb the paper towel. It's going to absorb some of the liquid, but also if I hold it up like this, it's still going to drip on the ground if there's enough. Doesn't mean she was alive.
And like that, it could be used to transport Nancy. Again, that doesn't mean he didn't bring it in. We have a very short amount of video, so it's very possible. But you know, I think we have the evidence. We have the hard evidence that Mrs. Guthrie was alive as she exited that house. Exactly how that took place, you know, is yet to be determined.
How important is it for an investigation to know what the motive of the crime is? In this particular case, Sheriff Nano says on NBC Nightly News that they know the motive, not telling us what it is. How important is motive understanding in solving a crime like this kidnapping?
It's everything.
It's of prime importance, particularly when you haven't identified a suspect, right? Because it's certainly going to help you narrow down and test those hypotheses.
Motive is important for every case, right? Motive means opportunity. But for an 84-year-old woman, it's particularly important because, again, there's not a lot of reasons why someone would unalive an 84-year-old woman.
To say, hey, it could be this
person in general.
Now, does the evidence confirm or deny that theory that we have for motive, right? And as you line up all of the pieces of known factors and known evidence, you're constantly testing those theories for a motive. The motive in this case, if it has truly been identified, will certainly help bring investigators closer to identifying a suspect.
Joining us now is a special guest, Pat Byrne, and I want to introduce you to Pat. He is a sleep expert and the founder of the Byrne Fatigue Consulting Group. He is the author of Inconvenient Sleep, Why Teams Win and Lose on Amazon. And he has analyzed the Nancy Guthrie case from his point of view. Mr. Byrne, thank you for being with us. I'd like to just start off with a general question as to your analysis of the Nancy Guthrie kidnap.
It was very interesting. So here's an elderly woman who's apparently asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was taken by some intruder. And so what I started to think,
it would be curious to me, you know, we've talked about the hearing aids before. Some people fall asleep with their hearing aids in, or whatever, or they have an extra set of hearing aids. We know that at least one set of her hearing aids, if she had more than one set, was still at the house. But some people sleep with their smartwatch on, and it'll track your sleep and all that stuff. So did she sleep with her smartwatch? If she did sleep with her smartwatch, then they would have had to have taken that smartwatch off of her.
about was what's going on in her brain. What sleep stage was she at? and how did that affect her emotions and her thought process when she woke up? So our human brains do not go from fully asleep to fully awake, right? There's this process, and it's called sleep inertia. There's this process of waking up, and that depends partly on how you're woken up and what sleep stage you're at. So at 2 a.m., she was probably either in a very deep sleep or in what's called REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, which is where we dream. And the interesting thing about that is if she was in a deep sleep, then she would be incredibly confused. She wouldn't know where she was. She wouldn't know what time it was. She wouldn't know who she was with. This confusion would go on for at least 2 to 3 minutes or longer. And interesting.
Okay. Where was that question? So a pacemaker, there's a difference in a pacemaker and a defibrillator. And there is combos as well. There is pacemaker defibrillator combos. Now, I don't know how old Nancy's was or anything like that, but a pacemaker is going to keeps your heart beating at the correct rhythm. It's generally your heart beats too slow, and it keeps it beating at the correct rhythm, right? It's kind of like if you're playing the drums and you're off beat, right? It's going to keep the drums in beat, right? Or too fast, but generally it's too slow. Now a defibrillator, sorry, my eye here. It's also known as an ICD. That will it stops dangerous rhythms as well, but it will also shock you, so to speak. So internal defibrillator shock the heart yes, exactly. So I have heard that she had kind of a combo with hers, but I don't know. Now, I can tell you from when I was at hospice, we how can I say this? When you're in hospice, you have no there is no more life-saving measures. It's you're there to pass on peacefully. And many times if people had like defibrillators and stuff, it would prolong life. Just people would suffer longer. So there have been times where like they would remove those defibrillators and stuff as well, because they are, in many cases, they're very effective. So I don't know if she had a defibrillator and pacemaker combo, or if it was just a pacemaker, right? Yes, they can suffer greatly because from disease or whatever that happened, since they've had like their defibrillator.
Thing is, she also has a pacemaker, I understand. So she has a heart condition, and elderly people with heart conditions who
Let's
are
get to
woken
1,000
up
thumbs up.
suddenly from a deep sleep are very high risk of a heart attack. So that concerned me immediately. And the other aspect too is if she was in REM sleep,
Look,
she was
she's got a beautiful smile.
dreaming. When we dream, our bodies freeze.
What a good picture.
And so you can't move. So if he walked into the room and she was dreaming he could just pick her up. She couldn't even move. And then she would get into she'd get into a panic mode and get, very confused.
That's sad.
She wouldn't be able to even say anything or be able to fight back.
Oh,
You see, that's very sad, isn't it? And to me, that's what I was. Again, if you're 84 years old, and I hope she was asleep and she didn't even know what happened. I really do. That's the best case scenario, in my opinion.
gosh, Pat. So
Very
much of what you're
sad.
saying is so upsetting, but I know you're the expert and these are the facts, but I've got to figure out what, if anything, is probative. What can I deduce? What can I learn? What can I prove from what you're saying? Well, for one thing, you stated for multiple reasons that she would be at a high risk of a heart attack. Could you revisit that and explain your thinking?
Well, the research just shows that elderly people who, even without heart conditions, are at a high risk
Exactly.
of heart attack and being violently and woken up from a deep sleep. So that's what the scientific research shows, right? And so you add on the fact that she has a pacemaker, which means she has a heart condition, makes it worse.
You know what's an interesting point about what you just made? With me, it was instinctive ever since the twins were born that I, even to this day, and they're 18, I wake them up gently.
Is Betty in here? Hey,
I don't
Betty.
fly open the door and yell, "Wake up!" or anything like that. And especially with my mom who lives with us, she's 94. It's, again, instinctive not to shout someone awake or scare them awake. But you're saying that when someone is abruptly woken in their sleep, especially an elderly person, it increases the risk of a heart attack. And we know she's a heart patient. She's got a pacemaker, among other things.
Absolutely, yeah. And particularly if she was woken up in a very light sleep, when she's just starting to fall asleep, that might be different. But at 2 a.m., she's going to be in a deep sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a term called sleep inertia. What's that?
So that's that foggy brain feeling you get when you wake up.
Now, to me, I've wondered, was she in a deep sleep? Or let's think of this as well. What happens a lot of times if we've had a stressful evening, or we had an argument with a family member, a coworker, a spouse, or whatever? We don't sleep, right? Or we don't sleep good, right? So I've wondered this as well. For instance, and again, I'm not blaming anybody or anything. I'm just saying this as an example, or a scenario. I'm not saying it happened. But let's say, for instance, there was an argument or a serious or stressful conversation that happened at her daughter's house that evening, right? Or there was a serious or a stressful conversation on her way back with her son-in-law that evening. And she got home and she was very stressed. Well, many times if you're very stressed, you don't sleep, or you don't sleep good. It's, when we're stressed like this, mental stress, physical stress, pain, you don't sleep as good. Also, when you are elderly like this, you tend to not sleep as good as you did when you were younger, unless you have help, unless you took some sort of sleeping medication or supplements like that as well. Because we know, according to her family, Nancy was in pain as well, right? When you are in any sort of pain, you don't sleep as good either, right? You go potty a lot too. That as well. Yeah. Now, Nancy didn't get home till almost 10 o'clock, 9:45 at night, right? To me, after she got home, right, and changed and all of that, it's probably going to be, I would say, minimum of 10:15, 10:30 before she would even get in bed, right? 30 to 45 minutes, before she got changed or whatever she did, washed her face, took her makeup off, whatever she did that evening, changed into her nightgown, all of that. So it's going to be 30 to 45 minutes before she would actually get in her bed, lay down, and go to sleep. And well, that's not even going to sleep, just getting in her bed. You got to get comfortable. Some people, it takes 2 seconds to go to sleep. Some people, it takes 2 hours to go to sleep. You know what I mean? So we're looking at 10:30, in my opinion, before she would even get in her bed. And that's if she just went home, got her clothes, her night clothes on, and went to her bed. Which you've got to think about. She was supposed to be up very early the next morning because she was going to go to the church function with the girlfriends and all that she did pretty much like every Sunday. I'm in bed by 9, but I do stay on YouTube. Yeah. Everyone has kind of like their bedtime routine. Was this a routine function that Nancy had on Sundays? Is this something that she or not Sundays, whenever, like on Saturday nights, did she go over to Annie and Tommaso's house? And if it wasn't, to me, that is way more strange that she did it this time out of all times, because within 4 hours later she's going to be missing or potentially deceased
in the mornings, right? And it's that period of time between
Guys,
being
please hit
fully
that thumbs
asleep
up button.
and
Let's
fully
get to
awake.
1,000 thumbs
And
up if
so
we can.
your reaction
Thank you all
time
for
is
being-
slower. Your thinking isn't very clear. And so it often takes anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour to get your foggy brain back, cleared up so you can actually function during the day. And even people like firefighters who may be sleeping in the fire hall and then the alarm goes off and they have to jump up and get in the vehicle and drive. They need to wait a bit to get their brains cleared before they get in the vehicle to drive. So that's common across for everybody. Sleep inertia is just normal.
What's another question? Pat Byrne is joining us, everyone. Sleep expert, founder of the Byrne, BYRNE Fatigue Consulting Group, author of Inconvenient Sleep, Why Teams Win and Lose on Amazon. Pat, for instance, every morning when I wake up at 5 a.m., I jump up and take off, like a bat out of hell, thinking, I've got to feed my mom. I've got to get the children's breakfast ready. I've got to do this. It's just a whole set of chores.
Yeah, it will be able, said, my understanding is pacemakers should be able to detect if the heart is still beating, not a GPS, just detects there is a heartbeat. We know what time it disconnected, but it has to be it would if it was still connected to her smart devices. You know what I mean? She has to be around that device or whatever. So we don't know.
Chores before my day even really starts. And sometimes I'm halfway to the kitchen before I really am awake. And I have to stand there thinking, okay, What do I need to do right now? What am I doing first? What is that? Is that the
That's-
sleep
that's
fog
sleep
you're
inertia.
talking about?
That's sleep inertia. Yeah, absolutely.
Huh. Well, I'm
So
certain.
Well, but in the military, which she's not in the military, but in the military, you don't have sleep inertia. You get up out of bed like it's programmed. Tom also testified to LE Pernanos. Where did you see that? 2012 White Tiger. I walked into her house. If true, see, I've heard both, but I haven't seen. You know what I mean? If true, where did he exit through? Was it the same door he and Annie entered through the next morning? We know the garage silent 950 on. Right, I was in the military. Yeah, you're in the military. You don't have sleep inertia. Your ass is up.
Certainly not inert. I sheet out like a bullet. How would this affect what happened to Nancy?
Okay, let me back up a little bit, because when you get up at 5 a.m., the chances are you're probably waking up from a light sleep, not a deep sleep. And so the sleep inertia is less pronounced when you wake up from a light sleep than you do from a deep sleep. And so in terms of the Nancy Guthrie situation, is that she was most likely in a deep sleep at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I'm pretty confident that she was at a fairly high risk for a heart attack.
Oh gosh, the reason I'm thinking through everything you're saying.
So again, if let's say she didn't get till bed till 11 o'clock. She got home at about 9:50. We'll just say 9:50. So 10 o'clock, 11. Let's say she's asleep. 12, 1, 2, 30. That's 3.5 hours. She would have been asleep.
Carefully, is because I wonder what happened at her doorstep, Pat.
That's assuming she went to sleep at 11 o'clock. That's assuming that she didn't get up and that she went back to sleep easy and all that.
Was she stumbling because of sleep inertia and fall? And then we see those, what clearly to me are low velocity blood drops. It's not high velocity from a gunshot wound. It's not throwback from a blow and then you.
It's definitely low velocity, but is there any mucus or saliva in with the blood? Definitely low velocity, but I don't know.
Bring back the weapon and you get cast off. It's none of those. It looks as if she's standing there out of it and blood drops. And I'm saying from her nose because it looks so much like the blood drops in the Travis Alexander murder.
Thank you, Nancy. It's not from the mouth. I'm telling you. I do not believe that blood is from the mouth. We've all had a mouth bleed at some point in our life, whether your gums bleed, you were hit in the mouth, whatever. When you are hit in the mouth, there is saliva that's mixed in with the blood. And when you spit it out, it's a lighter color. It's not as concentrated, right? Because it is a mixture of saliva and blood. It makes it look like there's more blood, but it's lighter. I do not believe this is saliva with blood. I think if it's anything, it comes from her nose, her lip. But there's not going to be it's not going to be oxygenated if it's from the lip. So I'm not convinced. If it's not from the nose, I definitely don't think it's from the mouth. I think it's more of a nosebleed or just a bleed or the blood, wherever it's coming from, wasn't contained. I hope she wasn't up walking around bleeding.
He was
So,
murdered by Jodi Arias, and he saw himself dying. He went and stood at his mirror in his bathroom, and the blood drops from his nose were right there on the counter. And they had a very similar blood pattern. So I'm wondering if Nancy was completely out of it.
let me see if I
Was
can
it
find
sleep
that.
inertia? Was she in the throes of a heart attack? And she stood there dropping blood. How does that query jive with your theory?
Right. So that probably tells me that obviously he's had some physical injury, right? Although it could very well be stress as well. Panic and stress, people get nosebleeds. Right? So yeah, that all fits with the same thing. It's, she would have had sleep inertia for, the full-on sleep inertia for probably 2 or 3 minutes, where it's like she would not know anything that's going on, and then her brain would slowly start to clear up, but it would be 20-30 minutes before her brain was completely fog-free, right? And so I don't know what the timeline was from when she woke up until she hit the door, when she was at the door.
Pat Byrne joining us, consultant, sleep expert, and author. Have you considered the perp?
Yeah, I thought when I saw the video, because that's the only one we really get to see as a perpetrator, I know, what's he doing out at 2 o'clock in the morning, wandering around the neighborhood? What's we think about his circadian rhythm. What about his own sleep patterns? Is this guy a night owl? Like, what do we know about this guy? Probably not much, but clearly he feels comfortable walking around the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, exactly. And Pat, question: why would he have picked between 2 and 3 a.m. to do this? What is magical about 2 to 3 a.m.?
One of the reasons people commit crimes, I think, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is because there aren't a lot of other people around. Everybody else is, or most other people are sleeping. But also, if he has any knowledge at all, he would know that she was probably sleeping, and that he could easily walk around the house and easily go and grab her, right? If because she's probably asleep.
Yeah. Well, another aspect of this, Pat Byrne, is that if he has a family, a girlfriend, a roommate, did they not notice he was gone way into?
It depends. It depends on, generally, yes, it's bigger drops, and it depends on how far it falls. It also depends. You got to remember, she had heart trouble. She was, I don't know exactly, but I would assume she was, because she had a pacemaker. She was, in my opinion, not a doctor, but she was almost certainly on some type of blood thinner as well, which really affects obviously the platelets in the blood, and will make it a lot thinner. But Nancy was just talking about this, how in Jodi Arias, how Travis, God bless his heart, Jodi Arias, you are the biggest demon. If you've ever seen Travis's autopsy photos, oh my God, you want to talk about crazy, how evil she is. I'm going to show you guys a picture. It's blood. So what Nancy was just talking about. So if you're squeamish to blood, it's not going to be come back in 30 seconds from now. This is the Travis stood in front of the mirror. Now, this is the blood. This is from the crime scene. And of course, there is more, but he was also fighting with his hands and stuff. But there was clearly coming from his nose as well. Right. So I'm not 100% convinced that this was necessarily a nosebleed while she was alive. I was in the beginning, but the more I'm not really sure. If it's from her head, like while she's alive, it's from her nose, in my opinion. But
To the night in the early morning
otherwise,
hours, which should be a tip off to anyone that has heard about the $1.2+ million reward. Joining us tonight, special guest Pat Byrne of the Burn Fatigue Consulting Group, and
hold on, we've already saw. Okay, sorry. All right, here we go. Listen to this, guys.
At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home. And we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes. Because that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed. Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription.
Okay, now we're learning that there is allegedly they have some new pictures or video from the night this crime happened. Okay, so but there's
And therefore it would rewrite itself, it just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So it detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal?
It's almost like a thumbnail.
I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video, but we're not giving up on that. 2:20.
It's almost like a thumbnail. They said, hey, Catch Up. Thank you so much, my dear. Appreciate you. Good to see you. Justin, thank you for continuing to cover Nancy's case. I appreciate your insight and reporting. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Catch Up. That's very kind of you. Good to see you, my friend. And thank you so much for those kind words and your support. I do appreciate your love. Thank you.
28. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone.
Nano said the ransom letters listed closed.
And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy and discovers her missing. And at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
what are we learning?
I'll show you.
9:48, the garage door opens. 9:50, it closes. Door cam disconnects. 1:47, so 9:10, 11, 12, 1. 4 hours later. 2:12. I don't see how they can say this is a coincidence. This is an animal. The door cam disconnects at 1:47, 2:12. Software detects a person on camera. And I'm going to have Fitzgibbons explain what he's.
Okay, what is this? Between 2:12 and 2:28, Nancy's pacemaker had a spike. Does anyone know what time it was? Okay, at 2:12, camera software detects, but there's no video available due to no subscription. 2:28, the pacemaker app shows it disconnects from the phone. I don't know when the spike was. I did hear about us. Let me see here. Nancy Guthrie pacemaker spike. Let's see here. It says where we can get some information on this. In the investigation, this is according to the New York Post, In the investigation, Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, a 228 disconnect from her pacemaker, a central piece of evidence that may indicate a physical struggle. At the 2 a.m. disconnect, okay, evidence of a struggle. Cardiologist suggests that the pacemaker recorded a sudden spike in her heart rate at that time. It could indicate that Nancy was in a heart rate surging physical struggle with an intruder. A distance factor, a more likely cause for the disconnect was that she was physically moved more than 10 to 30 feet away from her phone, which is the typical range for the Bluetooth connection. The if there actually is a spike, right? Whether she was, I mean, the fear that when you experience fear, all of us, not just Nancy, when you experience fear, your adrenaline goes up, right? Your adrenaline is your fight or flight, and that is you, movement, right? And so your heart rate increases. Your heart rate increases because it is sending more oxygen so you can fight or flight, right? So that's why your heartbeat goes up.
Saying about looping and covering it up. 228. Wow. 16 minutes later, her pacemaker disconnects from the phone, which means simply it goes 20, 30.
Yeah, your heart beats faster when you're stressed like that because it's right. It's the generator to your body. Okay, you need more oxygen and everything right now because this is a serious situation. We're all hands on deck. We're going to make sure you have enough oxygen going through your blood and enough power to send everything to the limbs and to the brain and everything. That's why your heartbeat goes up.
Feet away from her iPhone, which was left there in the home. It doesn't mean it quit working. It means it got away from the phone. The phone can't trace it anymore. 11:56, family checks on Nancy. 12:03.
Yes, Alicia.
It's on. Joining me tonight, an all-star panel to make sense of what we are
This
learning.
one's very
now,
interesting.
We
This
just
part right up
got
here.
that timeline. So much is being made of, is one of the family a suspect? And we heard the sheriff today state, we don't have a suspect. We don't have a person of interest, yet everyone is under suspicion. That's what they always say. Everybody is under suspicion. So the mom is dropped off early in the evening around 9:48. That's when the garage door has activity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A word sleuth says, just getting up from the bed, get your heart rate up. Poor Nancy was so startled. So I'm sitting at my desk, right? Which I don't have my smartwatch on right now, but if I would just get up and move, my heart rate is going to increase. It's not going to go astronomical until I start being more physical, right? Now, yes, if Nancy got up at any time of night, her heart rate's going to go up. But your heart rate should gradually go up. It shouldn't spike to something unless there was something immediate like that. The stress hormones being sent from your brain to your body, that's going to make it spike immediately, or you was immediately startled. It's going to send that's going to spike it. Or there's
9:50,
physical
the garage
stress.
door closes. With me, as I mentioned, an all-star panel, Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter on this case from the very beginning, Brian Fitzgibbons. I just introduced you to him, USPA Nationwide Security, and a renowned psychoanalyst, Dr. Bethany Marshall, joining us out of LA. She's the author of Deal Breakers. You can see her starring on Peacock now and find her at Dr. Bethany Marshall. Looking at the timeline, 1:47 a.m. The doorbell disconnects. 1:47 a.m. The doorbell cam disconnects. 2:12 a.m. Software detects a person on camera. But see, the camera part of that has been disconnected. So while the software is picking up movement, the cam isn't seeing.
So think about that. 1:47 in the morning, right? That is 1:47. 13 minutes. 13 minutes right there is when the door cam disconnects. What is interesting to me is, okay, it disconnects. And then 2 o'clock, her pacemaker spikes. 2 o'clock, 2 a.m., 13 minutes after the door cam disconnects. And then 12 minutes after her pacemaker spikes, the software detects a person on camera, but there is no footage for that. And then at 2:28, the pacemaker disconnects from the phone. In my opinion, at 2:28, she is being taken out of the home at that time. She's within 10 to 30 feet away from her phone, right? That is what's happening, in my opinion. There is it takes for instance, 13 minutes after the door cam disconnects, and then it's 13 minutes, it spikes, whether she was up or she was in the bed asleep. She's aware of something. Her body is at least aware of something. And I just want to give a trigger warning. If, for instance, if you are bleeding substantially, your heart starts beating faster, right? Because it's trying to make up for the lost blood. When you are bleeding substantially, it's trying to overcompensate, so your heart would spike, your heart rate would spike for that as well. Not just, you can be startled or whatever, but also if you are stabbed, pew-pewed, like that, and there becomes a lot of blood, your heart will increase a lot as well. So we think, everyone always talks about her being startled, but I'm not sure that it's that necessarily. I think it could be, she could have been laying in her bed and not even know something happened to her. And then her heart starts overcompensating like that. So for instance, generally, a day or two before, like, a terminal patient is going to die, generally within at least 12 hours, the heart will start beating very fast, very, very fast. We're talking well over sometimes 114, 130. I've seen it all really, really fast. The heart will start beating really because it's overcompensating. And then as you know, you're going down, the heart will start to slow. Right. It goes from beating really fast. And it's kind of the same thing, except it's all like if there is a pew, a stab or whatever like that, it overcompensates because there's not blood. You're missing blood. And then it will start going down. So that can be the spiking, then go down like that. So I'm not sure it is someone being startled. It could be, but I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. Hey, Sassy. Thank you so much, my love. Appreciate you very, very much. Love what you do. Thank you so much. Me too, girl. Me too. It's coming. They're going to get busted. They're going to get busted. I really believe they have a lot of, I think they have people of interest, and we're going to be surprised. Thank you so much, Summer. Appreciate you. And thank you, Sassy, for your continued support. I do appreciate you, my dear. Thank you, Miss Carol.
That's how I understand it. But then Brian Fitzgibbons, he launches into some discussion that it could have been an animal. My question is, why would the door cam disconnect? I mean, look in the picture. There's just a silver circle where the door cam used to be, right? It's that silver thing right there. That's where the door cam used to be. It fit right there. It's gone. Now, what is he trying to say? What is he saying, Brian?
The animal comment was perplexing. I believe what the sheriff is saying is that at 1:47, that doorbell camera was removed from its base so that there was some digital log.
Wait a second. Am I missing something? Animal comment. What's the animal comment? The hell is he talking about? Oh, it is Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Hey, Ocean Breeze. Thank you, baby. Appreciate you very much. How is it that nobody stepped in the blood on the porch? Good question. Good question. There's not a lot of blood. Not a lot of blood. I'll tell you my theory. I'll tell you my theory on it. My theory is that Nancy was contained. And when I say contained, I mean wrapped in a blanket, a sheet, plastic, a tarp, something. And while they were carrying, containment was lost. And when that happened, I think in my opinion, they probably realized containment was lost. Like, it's kind of like when you're carrying liquid and you spill it and you're like, oh God, don't step in it or whatever. That's my theory on it. But just because, and another thing here, just because we don't see that nobody stepped in it doesn't mean there isn't nobody stepped in it. Does that make sense? Because yes, there's not a lot of blood there, but when blood, it's not high velocity, it's definitely low velocity blood, but even when blood drips at low velocity, let's say it drops 3 feet, it still drops, and there are still very micro micro droplets as it goes out, right? So the big drop will do little drops on, it's kind of, like almost like a puddle as it goes out, like, and there'll be smaller drops, smaller drops, smaller drops, smaller drops. And some you won't even, you can't even see because, in my opinion, because of the color of the tile as well, that helps camouflage it as well. I think, in my opinion, that there could have been a lot of micro droplets out, and someone's foot, shoe could have definitely stepped in that, and it would have only shown under uh, uh, forensic. I can't think of the name. God, the luminol, but the blue. I can't think of the name right now. But I think it would have shown up under that as well. I think that's the reason. One of the reasons they came back and went and tested right in front of that door when they put the covers up around that door. Yeah, UV light, but I'm trying to think of the chemical. It's the blue star. Thank you, blue star. I just couldn't think of it. What door? So just because we don't see like physical steps to our eye doesn't mean. And also think about this. There's reporting that there is blood inside of the doorway. We don't know that 100%. So we can't say that 100%. But there's just reporting that there is blood on the inside of the doorway too. I think wherever, I think the person was pretty conscious to not step in it. Regardless. But just because we don't see anything doesn't mean there's no there's nothing there, that we can't see. I think sheriff knows way more. Something worse. That's why they are just stopping reporting until they find a DNA match. Well, they should have taken the damn mat. They should have taken the front door off. They should have taken the front door off. You know what I mean? So thank you for that, Ocean. Good question. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, let's go right here.
The camera to that.
This is interesting. I just now noticed this picture because I've always looked at the Ring doorbell. I need to go back and look at these pictures really closely. But there is a lamp right here. There's a lamp right here. And I've got some reporting. Hold on. Oops, I got something right here. What's this? When was this? Give me a second, guys. Ooh, I've not seen this. New stuff. Okay. Okay, thank you, Ginger, for that as well. Guys, I'm getting some stuff in. Just bear with me. I apologize. I want to show you all this. And okay, you see that lamp? There I've heard that there's been reporting that there was a lamp knocked over in an entryway as well. I don't know. I don't Maybe there was a lamp on each side or something as well. I got some stuff coming in.
That
I'm gonna show you.
effect. And now at 212, you have to understand a Nest camera has 3 modes: home, away, and off. And in the home
Mhm.
mode, it will still register seeing a person, and that will log that data in a log that it saw a person, but it won't be recording while in home mode. So, was the camera in home mode? It just logged that event. That's what it seems to be to me. I don't think that these cameras are going to mistake a person for an animal. Most of the cameras
No.
nowadays will accurately record. If they see a dog or a deer walk by it, it will record an animal over a person.
Yeah, it's
I've been saying, ring bell, it's a Nest. You're right, Brian. Now tell me how that works again. And I want to make what you say and what he said both be true. I want you to reconcile what he said, decipher it, and tell me what happened.
What it sounds like to me, Nancy, is that camera was popped off from the inside of the house. So it didn't register seeing anybody. And then when it was moved at 212, it actually sees a person. So I think what we can glean from this
Yeah.
timeline is the doorbell camera was disconnected off the base. 25 minutes later, that camera is moved and it's pointing in the direction that it actually registers contact with a person.
Let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
The doorbell camera.
Listen to this.
It was removed. We know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house.
Okay. All right. Dave Mack.
Because remember, we were told in the beginning that there was a camera was smashed, but we don't know that there was I think people might have been confusing that with the light around back. I think that this camera was probably taken and put in a bag, the backpack, and I think it probably picked up because listen, you can take that doorbell right off, and just because you take it off the bracket, if there is still a Wi-Fi connection, it's still recording as long as there's motion. And they could have got a lot of information. This person picking it up and placing it in their backpack, they could have got the person's face or whatever.
Speaking of cameras
And
quote,
audio.
around the house, is it your understanding there were granny cams, as I call the ones we have for my mom? There's nanny cams, I call them granny cams. Were there granny cams in Mrs. Guthrie's home?
That is what has been reported, that there were granny cams, as you say, in the home that were there and covering certain areas of the home so that if Mrs. Guthrie were to fall down or become incapacitated, they being the family or whoever had access, which we're told a very small group of people had access to the camera.
And again, if there is granny cams there, they're going to, one thing that's very interesting, if there, and I'm sure there's a very small amount of people that would be able to log into that. In my opinion, it would be just her kids. I would think maximum there would be 3 people that could log into those granny cams, maximum. They're going to check how often these granny cam apps were logged into, right? Did they do this on a daily basis? Did they do this just periodically? Did they particularly do it, log into these granny cams closer to the time Nancy leading up to her disappearance? And did they log into those granny cams, particularly the evening that she vanished? Right? Now, you could say, for instance, again, I'm not blaming anybody, but if Tommaso or Annie was connected to the granny cams, they could make sure, that's one way they could have made sure Nancy made it into the house safe and that nobody was in the house as well. But there is reporting that he didn't go inside, and there's reporting that he did go inside for a minute, with his mother-in-law. So don't know. Yes, guys, please hit that thumbs up button or double tap the screen if you're on the mobile. Greatly appreciate it if we can get to 1,000 thumbs up. It would be so amazing. Really appreciate you guys doing that.
And they could actually see what was taking place inside the home while she was alone. We've pointed this out. 84 years old, great mental health. Physically, she's got some issues walking around. So it makes sense that they would have cameras inside the house.
You see, this is the thing, Paul. You're right. I think, sadly, whenever something like this happens, everyone gets criticized around the family, particularly. Paul says, I think people are criticizing him. They talk about everything he's done wrong, but the FBI hasn't been able to solve it either. What about that? Good point. Just like in the Teppo case, that people was blaming the brother-in-law, and I couldn't get down with that ever personally because there was just nothing, and it turned out it was her ex. But also, just like in the Teppo case, there is just because law enforcement hasn't arrested someone doesn't mean that they don't know a lot more. And with something like this case, in my opinion, yeah, we've talked about the Koberger. It took 40 some days and all that. But when it comes to these very, very high profile cases, particularly in this case, because I think that there was a lot of mistakes made in the beginning, thanks to Sheriff Nanos, my opinion. But I haven't heard anybody say this, what I'm going to say. Because there were so many mistakes in the beginning, I think that they have to really, really dot their I's and cross their T's, because when there is an arrest, it's going to be so scrutinized because of the mistakes that, in my opinion, were made. And certainly the defense and critics will point out later. Does that make sense? So I think that is why it's also taking a longer time, because they want to make sure everything is done precisely by the book, because there was such buffoonery from Sheriff Nanos. in the beginning. You, like I've told you, I've criticized Sheriff Nanos so much with this because I've never heard a sheriff, whenever there was this guy that, uh, not this guy, this reporter who said, you released the crime scene and then you went back there and there were people walking out, up to the door. And then it's, suddenly it's a crime scene again. And sheriff, and the reporter said, aren't you afraid like that's going to hurt the case, when it, or if it goes to trial? And Sheriff Nano says, oh, we'll let prosecutors worry about that. That is the most irresponsible thing. And I've just never been able to forgive him on something like that, because you want to talk about irresponsible. It is irresponsible that you're the one saying that you run this ship, right? And are allegedly very stingy with the FBI in the beginning. Well, then you can take the freaking heat whenever it does, if it does get kicked out, if the evidence does get kicked out later. Because, I don't know, you released it in 24 hours or so. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. His resume tells a lot. He's incompetent AF. Yeah. Oh, it was, and he's such an asshole. Such an asshole he was. Hey, Deb. Thank you, love. Appreciate you. Look at you, Justin. Love your look. Love you, Justin. Look for you every day. Thanks for. Oh, thank you so much, my dear. Appreciate you, Miss Deb. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for being a member here on the Pearl family. Do appreciate you, my love. Good to see you, and thank you. Okay. He drives me nuts.
Interesting that the sheriff wasn't asked a question about the cameras inside the home. He volunteered that information, saying that they didn't, have smashed. His comment was, "I don't know where you're getting that information." Smashed
Night,
cameras
Lexi.
inside that home would indicate somebody was in there that knew the cameras were in knew where they were placed, and also knew where they were angled to pick up movement of Mrs. Guthrie inside the home. And that individual or people or persons
Yes, Ash.
would have been able to avoid showing up on those camera angles so they wouldn't be picked up.
I believe his words were to the effect, no cameras inside the house were destroyed, which tells me that there are cameras inside the house. I mean, am I reading that incorrectly, guys?
No,
Jump
you're
in.
absolutely right. That's exactly
That's what he said.
we learned from that statement from the sheriff, that
Listen
there
to
are
this.
cameras inside the house. He has also unfortunately indicated that they don't seem to have any of the footage from those cameras. He mentioned a couple of
He said
things.
something, Brian, about looping and covering itself, looping over and covering up images of someone. What is he saying?
Yeah, that I was trying to figure out, Nancy, and my best crack at that is basically maybe it was the mode that this camera was set in, that it was not set to record, but it was logging events, and that they're working with Nest,
Okay.
Google to.
Now, that's interesting, right? That's very interesting because you can set your granny cameras or your Nest cameras or whatever in different modes as well. And if you put them in modes where they're not as sensitive or whatever, first of all, if these settings were recently changed inside, that's going to be very suspicious. They're going to know which account set them, to this setting so that they're not recording as much or the camera isn't as sensitive. Which account did this when they did it, right? And that's going to be very significant if it changed it right before Nancy went missing, for instance, or if they changed it 2 weeks before Nancy went missing, or it's always been like that. But that's a very interesting thing that they're looking at. What did they say about Luke, brother? I didn't hear. I don't know what you mean. I think people are quick to judge, are petty. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's natural for people are we're all judgmental to an extent. It's natural to want to put pieces together. Our brain wants to make sense of things. That's normal. But I think I have no problem with speculating as long as we know that it's speculating and that it's not what's the word? You can't just outright say someone 100% did something. That is totally irresponsible. You know what I mean?
Try to extract that.
Another question I have is at 2:12 a.m., software detects movement on the camera, but the nest has already been disconnected. So I'm trying to reconcile that. Does that mean it picks up movement, but it can no longer record an image, or it doesn't record an image, only movement? Could you break it down in simple terms, Brian?
Yeah, to explain this simply, these doorbell cameras will have battery power to them. Okay, so you could disconnect it from that base, then an event gets logged, within its software, and then now you've moved it, but it's not seeing any person as it's moving. When you turn that, 25 minutes later, somebody picks it up and it's pointing towards a person. Now it's logging that event again, that it saw the person.
So it logs it, but is there an image? Because he's saying it
Very
loops
interesting.
over. Did it ever record an image? What I'm getting at, if it ever did record an image, whether it looped over it or not, could that be obtained from the cloud, or is it connected to a local server?
My assumption would be that it did not record an image.
Lots happening, lots of moving parts in the search for Nancy Investigative. Now we are learning a ransom note, possibly the very same ransom note sent to not two, but three news outlets, that being our friends at TMZ, Harvey Levin, KOLD, and KGUN. Okay. Also at this hour, the sheriff coming out and stating there is no suspect. There is no POI, person of interest. But wouldn't you agree, everybody, that they always say there is no POI, there is no suspect?
Yeah.
Because once you say X is a suspect, then X is shrouded in constitution.
Well, not only shrouded these once they say there is a suspect, but that puts a hell of a lot of pressure on investigators and authorities whenever they say someone is a suspect. If they say nobody is a suspect, then there's a lot less pressure. They don't the clock starts ticking when they say someone is a suspect. Not only that, the person that they name a suspect, a lot of times their behavior changes. Not only does their behavior change, many times they lawyer up and they stop talking, right? So there's a lot of reasons why they don't say suspect or person of interest.
Constitutional protections. That said, I choose to believe the sheriff. Dave Mack joining me. Dave, what is the latest as we go to air right now?
Right now, Nancy, we have been told that the ransom notes going to 3 different locations, we're not being told whether or not they are the same note or if it was 3 different ones. But the content of the note, one of them anyway, specifically talks about places inside the home of Nancy Guthrie.
Okay.
And talks about specific pieces of evidence at the crime scene that would only be known by somebody that was in there.
Okay, so let's look at that. Let's look at that a second. Nancy Guthrie abducted from home, TMZ ransom note. Now, Harvey did speak about this. They demanded a substantial sum of money in Bitcoin, which is interesting. This is what's very, very interesting to me. They described allegedly specific clothing Nancy was wearing. Now, you and I know that they have never told us, you and I, what Nancy was wearing. Have you guys ever thought about this? Usually, when someone goes missing, especially if they think there is a chance that they could just be out there alive, they say what the last thing that they were wearing. Right? They say the last thing that they were wearing. They have not told us what Nancy was wearing. We always assume it's some sort of pajama or some sort of nightgown, right? They've never told us this. But in this letter that was sent out, they described a specific clothing Nancy was wearing. In my opinion, law enforcement has to know what she was wearing because this person in this ransom letter wanted law enforcement to know, hey, I'm the real deal. I'm telling you exactly what she was last wearing. I believe most of these letters or emails are fake, but I do believe perhaps 1 or 2 is real. They mentioned damage done to Nancy's home or else threat. Okay. Now, the public knows of some damage that was done in the or outside the home, but we really have no idea, the public, we have really no idea necessarily what damage happened inside the home. The only thing Sheriff Nanos said was that there was very concerning things that happened in the home that would indicate that there was something really bad happen, like a homicide, because they did have homicide there on day 1. So if this person can describe what Nancy was last wearing in in her house that evening, and they can describe damage that happened inside the home, that's really going to perk up their ears.
Anyway, specific and talks about somebody that was in there. Detectives are working on this case right now, plus the FBI. And President Donald Trump has promised even more support to get to Tucson, Arizona to try to find Nancy Guthrie.
You know, I want to look at that note one more time. I'm
We
about
have
to bring
no
in
idea,
Jessica
Dawn.
Finn, senior investigative reporter with the U.S. Sun, but to Dr. Bethany Marshall joining me. Let me see, Bethany. Bethany.
But you got to remember, so we don't know exactly what exactly did they find in the home? Just we have no idea. That's the thing. But also, authorities did not release all of these ransom letters, right? Remember when some of these ransom letters came out, I think it was allegedly KOLD. They said they didn't want to release specific parts of the ransom letter because there was specific details, and that's very interesting.
Renowned psychoanalyst out of the LA jurisdiction, author of Deal Breaker. You can see her now on Peacock, and you can find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Dr. Bethany, how'd that strike you? Or else. Or else. That sounds like a fifth grade girl's novel. Do it or else. Or else what?
Well, it's very coercive, it's very menacing and threatening. But if this was a real ransom note, Nancy, wouldn't this have been submitted or sent to the family privately? Wouldn't it have been sent earlier, like right after?
Yes, it would have been submitted to the family. It would have been it wouldn't have been, in my opinion, if it was a real ransom note, right? It could be by the perpetrator, but it could be just to throw things off by the perpetrator, or just attention seeking for the perpetrator. They would have done it. In my opinion, they would have left a note inside. There would have not been as much damage done inside, because you don't really want to do a lot of damage inside or hurt the victim, because you want them to be fine. And an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker and without her medicine is highly delicate to begin with. You're going to leave a letter in the house. Not only that, you're going to get in touch with the family pronto, not days later, right? So I don't, it's not
After the mother is missing,
Reversal
when the
ransom.
family is completely frantic, the fact that it is sent to TMZ and another news agency,
Yes, you're not gonna say, oh, let me send this to TMZ and two local media outlets. First thing in the ransom letter, you tell anyone she's dead. That's what you're going to say. You tell the police it's over. Right? You don't go to some sort of like a tabloid outlet.
has copycat written all over it to me.
Something about it. Brian Fitzgibbons is joining me, Director of Operations, USPA, Nationwide Security. What is that? He leads a team of investigative experts. They go all around the world looking for missing people.
For one of them, yes.
By the way, former Marine and Iraq War veteran. Brian, there's something puerile, something juvenile about or else. Who writes that? Do it or else. That phraseology is bugging me.
Yeah, and there was something notably missing from this alleged ransom note, and that is a proof of life, right? For this ransom note to hold any weight, the author of the note would have to provide some kind of proof of life.
That's such a good point right there, right? Like, again, you're going to want to show proof of life really quickly. Number one, right? And think about this. If Nancy was alive, you would show that proof of life quickly. Number one, if they can tell you, or police, meaning if they can tell police the damage that was done inside of the home, right? What was the other thing? Where am I at? 3804. If they can tell us that what kind of clothes Nancy had on the night she went missing, or pajamas or whatever, and they can tell us damage done inside the home, then they should be able to show us a ransom, or not, sorry, they should be able to show us proof of life. They can tell us the pajamas she was wearing and specific things that happened inside the home. That they were doing that, in my opinion, to show that they were the real deal. Only the suspect would know that, but they couldn't show any proof of life, which kind of tells me, in my opinion, she's not alive. Right. Mary, yes. The one guy that was arrested for the ransom letter, he did message Annie and Tommaso. He sure did. He sure did.
That they did have Nancy Guthrie in custody, and that she was alive and well, for that note to have any value.
Well, here's another thing, and Jessica Finn, let me go to Jessica very quickly. Senior investigative reporter, the U.S. Sun.
I do believe at least one of the ransom letters out of many of the ransom letters. I think there was, but I do believe at least one or two of them are real. When I say real, I mean, I do believe it comes from the perp or perps, but I don't believe it's a ransom letter, as in the whole reason this happened is for, you give us the money or else. I think it's a real from the perpetrators, but I don't believe it's the goal was ransom.
Jessica, thank you for being with us tonight. Jessica, what do you make of the so-called ransom note being sent to 3 outlets and claiming knowledge of what Nancy Guthrie was wearing at the time she was kidnapped,
50 more likes,
and
y'all. Come on.
describing the interior
thumbs up.
of her home as it was left at the time of the abduction?
You know, the sheriff's department has been so close to the vest as to what information they're giving out to the media. And it's been really interesting to watch. They're doing a great job at talking to us, but not saying a lot. And I think that really this ransom note thing, we don't know if they've previously had a ransom note that they've discovered that was sent directly to the family. And that, who knows, maybe these people who have abducted her are getting frustrated by the sheriff's department not acknowledging them publicly. I mean, that could be a thing that's happening right now. The other thing is, and yes, we have not heard that there's been proof of life.
No, that's not what I mean, Deb. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't believe it was ever for a ransom. I believe the goal, whatever the goal, I believe the goal was Nancy. The goal was for Nancy to be, in my opinion, gone. Not for them to take her for money, because they would have contacted the family. They would have said, don't call the police. The last place that they're going to go is TMZ and 2 local news outlets. In my opinion, but there was different ransom letters. I think they tried whoever told them about what she was wearing and what the inside looked like of the home, or what was damaged inside the home, is probably it's probably real. But I don't think that they would have, if the goal was money for ransom, you don't wait 3 or 4 days. Who wants to take care of an 84-year-old lady for 3 or 4 days whenever you're just there for money? You're criminals. You just want money. Right? So I think it was just a thing to throw them off that she was really deceased, in my opinion. because if you can tell me what she was wearing last, if you can tell me certain things in the house that was damaged that only the perpetrator and the police would know, then you can also show me proof of life. But they didn't show proof of life, which tells me, in my opinion, she was deceased. And it was just, we want to pretend to you that, oh yeah, this is, you give us money for her.
However, the sheriff did say today during an interview with NBC that he believes Nancy is alive. And so as to why he is suddenly saying he believes Nancy is alive after these ransom notes went to news stations around the country yesterday, doesn't there's something there. There's might be a there that maybe we just don't know, because the sheriff, again, is holding these cards so close to the vest, despite, being accessible to the media.
To Brian Fitzgibbons, I want to talk to you about
Oh,
practicalities.
we do live chat replay, honey.
Practicalities. If this is a ransom, and that reminds me, I'm going to circle back, Jessica and Dave, about, do we believe this Bitcoin account is real? Because I've heard that it has been authenticated. Doesn't mean the ransom note's real. Somebody could get my checking number. They can figure it out, right? Or come up with a number. But that doesn't mean I'm part of a ransom or a kidnap. So that could be a legitimate authenticated Bitcoin number, account number, and still not be connected to the Guthries. But to you, Brian Fitzgibbons, you've done this 100 times. So you ransom someone. Don't you believe at some juncture you're going to have to show proof of life? I mean, why kill her? Don't you think at some point they're going to have to, if they want that money, they're going to have to show proof of life?
Absolutely necessary, right?
Exactly.
Because that's the key to this whole thing. If this is a kidnap,
Let me tell you something. If I was taking an 85-year-old woman, right, which nobody does, number one, if I was taking an 85-year-old woman, I would wake her up gently, right? I would probably have a wheelchair or something, or walk her to the car very easily. I would say, where's your medicine? Right? Is this your favorite blanket? She's not going to be bleeding going out the door or whatever. And I'm going to want her to be alive, not stressed, all of that, because I want her to be okay and be alive so I can get the money. But guess what? That is not what happened here. Why are they talking about damage in the house? Right? Talking about damage in the house. Well, she might have fought. Sounds like she may have, if there's damage in the house, or they damaged to get to her, or access to something. But they seemingly didn't take anything other than Nancy.
for ransom case, they will want to make it very clear to the Guthrie family that Nancy is alive and well. Prior to them sending any type of ransom money, they would obviously demand that. So, that being absent from this ransom note really stuck out to me, because, you're not going to risk communicating too many times without providing it and potentially exposing your identity.
What do you make of sending it to 3 different outlets? KOLD, TMZ, and KGUN. What do you make of 3 different outlets, Fitzgibbons?
Knee-jerk reaction to this, Nancy, is that this is either a hoaxster who's trying to make a quick dollar off of this horrible scenario, or second, if it is actually tied to the case, that there's some kind of distraction taking place, that they're looking to tie up resources of law enforcement.
So,
yep, I think they're just wanting to trick, in my opinion. I think that's what they were wanting to do. Okay, so let me show you this right here. Oops, what'd I do with it? Give me a second. Let me pop this up. This is new that we're going to look at right here. I'm going to go to News Nation. Guys, please hit that thumbs up button. I'm going to try to get to 1,000 thumbs up. Please, or double tap the screen if you're on the mobile there.
Nancy Guthrie. Investigators have reportedly uncovered more images from her home camera captured before her disappearance. And tonight as well, the sheriff is raising real concerns that the kidnapper could potentially strike again, as forensic scientists believe DNA now could hold the keys to this case. Our Brian Enton back for us once again. Tucson, Arizona tonight with the very latest. Brian?
Yeah, hey, Blake, it's Dave.
Blood pressure, is it a life or death medication? I mean, this is the thing. Blood pressure can be a life or death medication. I mean, it depends on how bad your blood pressure is. If you already have a weak heart and you're on blood thinner and you're prone to stroke and heart attack, yes, sure can. Especially if you're under stress.
41, if you can believe it, in the search for Nancy Guthrie. I'm still outside Nancy's house here, and there's been quite a few developments over the last 24 hours. You mentioned it. First of all, reports that the FBI now has images from other cameras on Nancy Guthrie's property. Remember, we first only saw the images in the video from the Google Nest camera right on Nancy's front door. We were wondering, because we knew there were other cameras, one on the side, one in the back near the pool, and we are learning now that the FBI was able to obtain images from those other cameras. But here's the catch. It's not video. It's actually only thumbnail images. So every time motion was detected, apparently a thumbnail image was created, and that is what the FBI has. They don't have the full images or the videos, just the little thumbnails.
Okay, so thumbnail images. When it would detect an image, right? It's basically a picture, just a small thumbnail image. It's going to show like one image like that, whatever the motion was. And this is supposedly inside the home. Little, small picture thumbnails.
Are told that anything around the time frame of when Nancy was abducted is missing, is not there, which is kind of interesting to think about why that time frame is missing. You know, there's been these questions about, was there like a signal blocker used? Some other neighbors reported internet outage.
Okay. Now, okay, this is very interesting. Very, very interesting, folks. Now, inside the house now, around the time Nancy went missing, no, only around the time Nancy went missing, there's nothing on those cameras. Now we know neighbors, 2 cameras only around the time Nancy went missing. There's no data. There's no video. And it's only the 2 cameras of the neighbors that's pointing toward Nancy's house. It very much is suspicious. If perps unplugged the Wi-Fi, I don't know. You would think that there wouldn't be any thumbnails if there was motion then. Thank you, Green Eyes. Very interesting. Just listen to that. Just listen to that again. This is very, very interesting. Hold on. I'm trying to back it up here.
that anything around the time frame of when Nancy was abducted is missing, is not there, which is kind of interesting to think about why that time frame is missing. You know, there's been these questions about, was there like a signal blocker used? Some other neighbors
It's not a
reported
Wi-Fi
internet
jammer.
outage, and apparently her cameras also did not have any images or video right from that time frame when she disappeared, Blake.
Nancy's cameras around the time she went missing didn't have anything. Neighbors, nothing as well.
It's not video. Seems like from a past era. Do we know if the images are clean or clear?
No, and they're just thumbnails, and you know how small thumbnails can be. So, and it apparently doesn't help much because it doesn't have the time around when she was abducted. It does. They do show some people from previous days, which could be helpful. They can go back and look and see who those people are. In fact, they even apparently showed the police when they first showed up on scene. So maybe there'll be some helpful things there. But the fact that it doesn't show anything from right when she was taken is obviously not a good thing.
And Brian, what can you tell me about the DNA?
Yeah, so we're still waiting. The big question here is the DNA inside the house, whether they're going to be able to use it. We know that it was mixed. I actually went to a DNA lab at Arizona State University. It was fascinating learning about how this process worked. And the forensics professor there zeroed in on something that I hadn't thought about. The fact, you know, the suspect had the ski cap on, the balaclava, but the mouth was still uncovered, which is a big deal because that means spit was coming out, which is very, very important for finding DNA. Listen to what she said to me, Blake. The nose, is that a very good thing?
It is a good thing, but knowing where he was at inside the home would be very difficult.
So just because he was in there breathing and spit was coming out,
we wouldn't
that
know.
doesn't tell us much about, they can't check the whole house.
They can look, but unless he spit a lot, they're not going to see a large quantity and it's not going to fluoresce.
So it's kind of interesting. The saliva, apparently it's important if there's a large quantity, but just in terms of breathing and a little bit of spit coming out, she was explaining to me that is not always that helpful. But she was hopeful overall about the DNA. You know, science is improving every single day. And she's hopeful that they will be able to do the genetic genealogy and that may end up breaking the case open, Blake.
Brian
That's
Ensign,
what's
live
gonna-
for us, Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you.
That's this will be solved. I promise you that. This will be solved. If nothing else, genealogy will solve this. It does take longer for genealogy, but I bet you there's a lot of people working on it as well. The images reportedly do not show anything suspicious and showed people in the back and side yards in a period leading up to Guthrie's disappearance. Plus pictures of law enforcement officers after she went missing. Guthrie, 84 years old, was believed to have been taken July 31st or early February 1st. Authorities previously released video taken from the doorbell camera to show a masked suspect with a holster backpack and possibly a signal jammer device. It's not a signal jammer. It's not a signal jammer. Just tell you that right now. Definitely not a signal jammer. Signal jammers take too much. It takes a lot to do a whole freaking block. They're just not going to have that. Okay, watch this.
Is missing now for Nancy Guthrie. The 84-year-old last seen alive on the night of January 31st. And now, after weeks of investigating, authorities believe they may know why she was targeted.
Oh, I think so too.
The Pima County Sheriff hinting at that, but declining to provide more details about the suspected motive. Investigators still have not publicly identified the masked man
pull it up
seen
spare time.
on that front door surveillance camera the night Nancy went missing. Officials also still working to process mixed DNA found at her property. Senior national correspondent Brian Inton has been reporting from Tucson since Guthrie's kidnapping. Joins us live. So, Brian, could the missing puzzle piece be this DNA analysis?
Yeah, that's what we are all hoping, Nicole, though there seems to be some complications with the DNA. You mentioned it, though, day 41, a few big headlines today. The sheriff was asked, do you think that this suspect could strike again? And he responded, absolutely. That was in a new interview from yesterday, which was kind of chilling to hear him say that. At the same time, he did say they still believe that the abduction was targeted, although he said they can't be 100% sure. And he said they do have a theory about what happened, but they weren't willing to release it at this point. In terms of the DNA, though, again, the DNA inside the house seems to be what could really crack the case open. We've been told that there's complications with it in the past, that some of it may be mixed together, multiple people's DNA all mixed together, which can be hard for experts to separate. But you remember the picture of the suspect on the outside, Nicole, when he had the flashlight in his mouth. There was one point where he had the flashlight in his mouth. I spoke with the DNA expert at Arizona State University who said that really stood out to her because saliva is one of the best ways to get someone's DNA. And that flashlight to her was just really, really important, she said. Listen to what she told me. You know, he had the flashlight in his mouth in that one photo. What does that say to you? Could that be helpful for DNA?
Yes, as a forensic serologist, I would have cued into that immediately and said that is a great source of DNA. So I would have asked, did they recover that flashlight? Because I would want to swab the end of that flashlight that was in his mouth where he was depositing saliva on it. Because I know from the video that if he's got it in his mouth, he's leaving saliva behind, and that's a really strong source of DNA.
And also, Nicole, while he had the mask on his face, you noticed that his mouth was not covered with the mask, which is also a good sign for DNA because his saliva would be coming out, getting on things in the house. That's something else that they could test, Nicole.
All right, so we know, Brian, obviously News Nation is staying on this case. You are still out there reporting live. We know there is still so much interest in this case. Kind of walk us through what the scene is like there now, more than 40 days into the search.
Yeah, it's very quiet at this point, honestly, Nicole. You know, we've still seen FBI and sheriff's deputies in the neighborhood a little bit. They were out here earlier in the week. But for the most part, it's quiet out here. We know they have this task force behind the scenes that they continue to work really around the clock, working the tips. There are people dedicated to the case. But it's been relatively quiet out here today, Nicole.
All right, Brian Inton live for us there in Tucson as the search continues for Nancy Guthrie. Thank you.
1 second, it's a pipe dream.
The person with that flashlight in their mouth as well. I am still, I'm not going to blame anybody, obviously, but one thing that's still very interesting to me is that the electrician, because I think of that mouth light. Here we're going to talk about briefly about this tattoo. What do y'all think about this tattoo? I guess this is enhanced a little, but you see this tattoo. To me, there's a tattoo here, and that looks like part of a tattoo as well. I believe this is one of the biggest things to look out for. To me, this is probably like typical blue ink, whatever, you know, the normal color tattoos. And I think that's something we really need to look out for. What's that, Javi? Walkie-talkies for two perps. May have a sleeve, yes. I think of someone who knows Nancy and was familiar with her, in my opinion. 1,000%. Tattoo artist said, black and gray tattoo. Yeah. Mary, is that the electrician? I don't think it's a jail tattoo. I think it's a professional tattoo. Someone uh, says that they believe it's something like a woman photo like this. See this right here? Now look at this. Like it's something like, let me make these bigger actually. That it's something similar to this. Let me make it bigger for you guys. I don't know. Where on the body was the tattoo? Does anyone know? The wrist. The wrist. What's that, Sherry? Is that no? It's. I don't think it's a jail tattoo. Mm-mm. I think it's someone. Okay, I read that one. Okay. I don't know. It's crazy though. My husband has black and gray sleeve tattoos, hands on biceps, no jail. Looks like a rope to you. Oh, they can text me. They can text me whatever they want to text me, 307-228-4906, or you can email me. If you okay, this came out today. What's this? Give me 1 second. Let's see what's this? Yeah, I think it's a tattoo. I hate how Fox does these videos. I do think it's a tattoo. I absolutely do. I don't think it's a shadow. A lot of times I do believe things are shadows, but I don't believe that's a tattoo. I'm telling you, that is not a shadow. You can see it clear as day right there. Let me make it bigger. See it? That ain't a shadow. See how it makes it smaller when I do that? I hate that. You can see it very good. Mm-hmm. Probably goes up his arm. Yeah. I think I think they have small hands for a man and they're built. See, I think he has big ass hands. I think he's got big, thick ass hands. In my opinion. But that's just me. Why haven't they looked closer into the tattoo? I'm sure that they have. Oh, I'm sure that they have. I would definitely say that they have for sure. Okay. Trump says U.S. just obliterated every key military target in Iran's crown jewel moments ago. Okay. Trying to see if there was any. Okay, Nancy Guthrie.
They say you can't take the lottery with you.
When was this?
But now,
a second ago. Give me a second. 5:32 a.m. p.m. Nancy Guthrie travels to dinner at 5:32 p.m. That's interesting. Let me see here 1 second.
Days go by and the answers remain few and far between. Nancy Guthrie's family is continuing to hold out hope, rightfully so. Savannah Guthrie releasing a heart-wrenching new video yesterday. Take a look.
Okay, that's old. All right, guys. I'm going to end it here. I'm at literally 3 hours, 2 hours and 59 minutes. We'll end it here. It's been a day with this, that is for sure. We're gonna stay on it though. Justin, YouTuber, ask Justin Tuning. Franklin, I have live chat replay that should be on. I usually do live chat replay almost always on all the lives because I don't like it whenever people don't do live chat replay. Let me make sure. Yep, it's on. It's on for both. Making sure. Yep. Live chat replay is on for both. You're good, my friend. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you, love. Appreciate you. I will be back on tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. It's the weekend, Friday the 13th. And yeah, hopefully it went well for you. There was just another Friday the 13th. What was it, last month? Which is kind of rare. That's when they did the last. Isn't that the last time that they did the dailies, or was that Carlos? Thank you, Jason. Tomorrow's your hubby's 50th 50th birthday. I was going to say 50th anniversary. Thank you. Happy birthday to your hubby, Miss Sherry. His hands are much smaller than the gloves. Hands may be female. I don't know. I mean, you're welcome to believe what you want to believe, but I'm not a female. That's a dude. That's a dude. This dude may look like a lady, but that dude look like a dude. Okay. Luke's raid was February 13th. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, love. Hey, Sue. Good to see you. He's Susie Q. He's a dude. I'm just telling you. But I don't know. I still think that there's the FBI. Something led them to the dailies and Carlos's house. What? I don't know. But I'm sure that they just didn't show up. You think it's a female disguised as a male? I don't think so. I don't think so. That'd be... All right, guys. Much love, everyone. Loves you too, Tammy. I agree. Bogey. With holster to hide his little dude. Brian is trying to get court docs for search details. Well, I would love for them to release some FOIAs. That would be good. That'd be good. Much love, everyone. God bless each and every one of you. Justice for Miss Nancy Guthrie. Good night and God bless. Thank you.